while. So here is my guest, the real Marcus James Tate.
Yes, here I am. I am live in the flesh in here with Elle. Excited to, talk about whatever topic that come up. Elle decided to be a little bit mysterious with me, but I'm a good sport, and so I am excited to have this conversation.
Well, tell us about your channel, The Political Matrix.
Well, actually, what a lot of people don't know, I actually have three channels. I started with my first channel, What I've Been Thinking, and that one I was really engaged in following a lot of the electoral politics. And so following a lot of the stuff that was leading up to the primaries and debates and getting into that very wonky, boring stuff. And then after the primary, I still keep that channel going and I do content here and there, but a lot of my content, more effort started going to my second channel, the Political Matrix. And that is the channel where the other one talks politics, but it's kind of more safe. The Political Matrix, we touch every third row that we can. We don't care your feelings. We don't care what we're called. It's myself, my good buddy Emmanuel, which we call Blue Maverick, and we have Chris Cy Lawson is my other co-host. And then I have a side project where I delve into religion and things like that on that. Those are the three ones I'm working on. So I try, sometimes they kind of overlap, but I want to try to separate because I have my people who are just looking for conventional world news and politics. And they don't really want to touch some of those other areas. It's not because they necessarily disagree, but it can be just that they know the perception that's latched onto you if you even say certain things, whether they're true or not. So, the one current theme I try to push throughout all the channels is I'm going to speak what I believe is the truth as much as possible. And so sometimes I'm going to get myself in trouble and hot water, but hey, that's what we're here for, right?
Yeah. I mean, if we're not making a fuss, then we're just like sitting on our ass and just not getting anything.
Exactly. I mean, after the primary. Now, yes,
There we go.
I'm not sure who you were aligned with at the time, but for good or bad, and I'm not saying that I was with this person thinking that they were the greatest thing since sliced bread, but I was back for Bernie.
Same.
So, and for those who are out there who have your little list, we're talking about primary time. We're not talking about Bernie of right now. Primary season where there's a lot more hope and glee in our eyes, and we actually saw like, what, we might actually be able to do some things. Maybe, make a crack in the wall. And then let's make it awkward real quick. I feel like Bernie completely, I don't know if his balls got kidnapped or if they got mailed to Nicaragua or like what happened in that process. Because I actually did a couple of videos like the speech which I wish Bernie Sanders would. And I was kind of, okay, Bernie, at some point, turn on the heaters. You got Glass Joe in front of you, just throw a punch. And he's just trying to blow on him to get him to fall down. And then even the press is like eating his lunch and he's scared of the press. And I'm like, oh, what kind of man are you? I mean, and no disrespect to women out there, because there are a lot of fiery, badass women who don't lay down. But I mean, you're supposed to be the leader of a cause that's supposed to be rambunctious and fighting. You say, even if I get Joe Manchin, I'm gonna get the protesters and we're going to Joe Manchin's district. And why does that calculation change because you don't become the nominee? I mean, why aren't you still using that weapon? I feel.
Well, I felt in 2016 like I got fucked and I was not going to do it again. And even at that point, I was saying giant meteor in 2016. So I had chosen to just go with the anti-war candidate, which was Jill Stein, like a lot of other progressives or progressives, as it turns out now. But, I felt really good about that because I was like, for once, I voted for someone with in good conscience, that I thought would be a better option than the ones involved and would get us into a least amount of trouble abroad and domestically. But then she went and did the recount thing, which was a total mistake, and ended up blowing up in her face and everybody else's face. But I see where she was going with that, but it was just kind of like, girl, you know, you're not going to change the wheel. This wheel is going to keep turning no matter how much you do that, because that's not going to happen. And as we saw in this election, previously in the general election fraud was everywhere, and now we're supposed to ignore it because this is Republican thing now.
Yeah, that's something where the disconnect, especially in the so-called lefty media independent sphere. For the audience, the people I'm talking about is the ones who are kind of leading, which have the biggest numbers, but are really good at just sheep herding us. Yeah. And then when it gets down to the moment when we should be fighting, their goal is to calm us down and say, don't worry, just fight next time. Next time.
It's always next time. There's not going to be a next time.
And I mean, you know what, since they decided to go after a journalist, which I have a lot of respect for, we're just going to call them out by name. I'm talking about PYT, Annika Experience, and James Hugo.
Yeah.
These two, I remember when I first used to listen to them, and I had a lot of respect for them because they were railing against the Iraq War and a lot of the war crimes and things like that were going on. But one thing I didn't realize and pay attention to is they were doing that, MSNBC was doing that, and CNN to a degree was doing that. All because that was the same topic.
Yeah.
And so what we didn't realize is, even though they were being critical, they were still staying within their safe zone. And so what's happened is, as more things have escalated, now it's getting harder to find those safe zones to criticize. And so this is when they're getting exposed. Because we're like, okay, wait a minute. You guys are talking about election fraud throughout the whole primary. And then as soon as they hit the general election, it is a complete conspiracy theory. It is sacrilegious to even think it's possible that maybe the stop the steal people are entirely crazy. Now, do I think some of them are crazy? Yes. Without a doubt. But that's not the point. That's not the point.
No.
Can a broken clock be right? Yes, it can.
Trump was right a million times.
And that's my point. We don't always act like now that you brought up Trump. I mean, Trump, one issue that I thought about is Trump, if everything Trump wanted to do was able to get done, then he would be that horrible monster that everybody fears. But the one thing people don't get about Trump is like an old golden retriever who's out in the yard. He gets an idea in his head and it's gone the next. And so there's no follow for it. He's just going to talk a lot of shit, and then some stuff is going to kind of not work out the way he wants. But how is that any different than any other president that we've really had?
He's a true politician.
Exactly, a true politician. He's not going to do anything that's really, like for instance, when he dropped the Moab, for those who don't know in the audience, in the military, I was a weapons inspector. You send out a bomb like the Moab, the only thing you're trying to do is shock value. You're trying to say, look, we did something. Notice he did that one, and then what other military actions did Trump initiate outside of conflicts that are already going? Zero. Now, if you look at Obama went in with 3 wars. By the time he left, we were at 7, and you could possibly even say 8 if you start throwing in Chad. Yeah. I mean, we started going to Somalia more and more. Somalia was bad too. And then it's always funny to me whenever I have people who will say, well, you know, coming from the Black community or minority community, aren't you happy that you at least had Obama, you know? And then I'll hear Republicans still say, well, Obama was reparations. And I'm like, how? Black Lives Matter started under Obama because he wasn't doing shit. I mean, and it goes even back to, what was it? I remember the Trayvon Martin stuff. Actually kind of congealed.
And then went crazy with Ferguson.
And at the time of the Trayvon Martin shooting, I was living in Florida at the time. I was only about maybe an hour and a half from Sanford where it happened. And then right after that, you had the Jordan Davis situation, which was literally 7 minutes from my apartment at a gas station, which I used to go to gas at all the time. And you're seeing event after event after event just go crazy under Obama. You look at what happened with the Flint, with the water issue, and that was mostly in a predominantly minority area.
And he gaslighted them.
Yes, and then Obama wants to come out and talk about Pookie pull up your pants and all that shit like that. What about Standing Rock? What did you do to the natives? What about Denmark, South Carolina? The water.
See what happens.
And it's like, this guy is just not done a damn thing. You think because it's reflected in the mind that means anything. For one, how many nations is it in Africa? Go if you want to just pencil me as African.
Yeah.
How many nations is it? Are all of them on the same accord? Are all of them buddies? Are all of them friends? Do they all even have the same DNA code? No.
We're European. It's not everybody.
It's just like saying, you know what? Whatever, British and Russian, you guys are the same exact thing. And,
I know nothing about Poland.
And that sounds insane to most people just in general. Even though DNA is even a little bit closer. But the cultures are vastly different.
Mm-hmm.
Vastly different. Even though 42% of the world speaks the Indo-European language, which means half the world speaks from the same language family, the languages are still different.
Mm-hmm.
I can listen to, for instance, I speak multiple languages. I can hear something in, say, French, which, just because of the pronunciation, throws off me even catching what they said. If they pronounce it just a little bit differently, I might pick up on that sentence. But that's the same thing with comparing Obama with African Americans. For one, Obama has no ties to black people because he doesn't come from an African American descent. He comes from a Caucasian mother. I believe his mother might be his mother, I believe she's Ashkenazi. So you have an Ashkenazi mother and a Kenyan father. How is that a tie to the black community? Zero. It's the same thing with Kamala, which I could go there. I mean, a lot of people don't know Kamala's grandfather is a famous plantation owner in Jamaica.
I know, I read about
And so a white plantation owner, and you guys are trying to call her African American. I'm sorry, I get on with my little tangents. I don't want to dominate the show.
No, it's okay. I just want to get sources.
Yeah, I mean,
because now we have to do that. Even on a podcast,
we literally have to prove every little thing we say.
I hate that, but opinions don't.
Well, and that's the reason why, on my other channel, oh yeah, I didn't even say the name of my other channel. My other channel is called Hebrew Apologetics with Marcus Cage. On that one, the way I'm laying out, the information, so I'm laying it almost out like a trial lawyer. I lay out a little bit of information and then a whole bunch of documentation to go with it. So, okay, now we've established this point and I'm not just fishing this out of the air. Now we'll go on to the next point. And then that's how I'm kind of building this whole thing out, piece by piece by piece, because it's so easy to get demonized for one wrong comment or one wrong wording of it.
Mm-hmm. Brownstown, that's where this is.
Brownstown. Mm-hmm. Which a lot of people don't realize also that Jamaica is very segregated. It is very segregated between the European settlers and the.
It should be Snopes before anything.
Wow! Don't you love it when they always bring up Snopes? It's funny. I like to do one of these days. I'm probably going to do a video on just so people who don't know about the Jerry Springer situation that goes on with behind the scenes with Snopes. How it started out with a husband and wife couple, and then they started getting some money, and then he's cheating on his wife. It gets. I mean, what was that one thing that everybody was big on? What was it last year? Tigerland or something. I can't remember. Gatorland or something. I don't know. Something crazy like that, where it was this whole back and forth between this one, I guess, Gator Ranch or Gator Farm or something like that, And then this guy who everybody looking at him, it would look kind of like a Joe Dirt type, that you would think would be the most like sexist, most, you know, anti, I'm trying to think of the word, what is it? You're, excuse me, I'm trying to think of misogynistic. That's the word I'm looking for. Yes, the misogynist. He's like, if you were looking at him, he's ideally what you would misogynist being and like completely anti-women. And then it's ironic to find out that he is like completely out of the closet homosexual, but he doesn't fit any of the stereotypes that you would automatically imagine or associate, you know. So he's very rednecked out and gator teeth and stuff around his neck, and so you wouldn't get that image of the metrosexual type, look.
Joe Exotic.
Yes,
My
Joe
God.
Exotic.
Everybody was talking about stupid shit.
Everybody, I never
Show.
saw it. I never saw it. So
whatever Tiger.
yes.
Who gives a shit? Tiger.
Yes, it's just how I look at it. It's just more distraction to keep us numb.
And then the Baskin thing.
Yes.
Carol Baskin.
Carol Baskin. Yes, that like what would we call it? It's almost like a lowbrow reality version of Dallas.
Yeah.
I mean,
I had not watched any of it.
For those who are maybe younger and don't know about Dallas, I mean, all it was like oil tycoons and at the top level of their families and all the drama they get into.
Yeah.
And in all honesty, I used to look at those as like, that's some kind of like way out there drawing. And I started realizing, holy crap, these wealthy people, they really do act like this. At the top level, you think that they're so civilized. But when you find out, oh my God, these people, they literally have no morals. They throw over their family right and left. I mean, they don't really hold to anything. They're horrible with money. They make terrible decisions. But yet, that's because they've been having to be born into the right families. They've been able to prosper.
Well, back to family.
Yeah.
I found IBTime.sg, Kamala Harris, direct descendant, one Jamaica's slave owners. That's the link. And it even says here, according to PolitiFact, their own fucking favorite fact website, Hamilton Brown was indeed listed as a slave owner in Jamaica and an attorney by Center for the Study of the Legacies of British Slave Ownership. There was also a document in the UK National Archives which stated that Brown was the owner of 121 slaves in 1866. They continue, but that's what we're getting at.
It's kind of interesting how that never came up during the primaries, right?
It's
so interesting. It's so interesting. While they're running for president, that never came up. Now, here's one thing I know about politics. And for those who are still with their naive glasses on, listen to me for a moment. If you think the Republicans did not know this, you're living in a dreamland. They knew this, and they chose not to put this information out there. Not to. So, if you had evidence where you could kind of almost take away that whole African American, power vote, because if you brought up the fact that her grandfather is a slave owner, that would have really killed a lot of that momentum in both sorts of black communities. So, I just say, ask yourself, why in the hell did that information not come out?
Yeah, and then they even go to say, like, they try to denigrate, like, the idea, and they say, however, there's always a however. The website also says that the family tree, you're going to see the way that this goes, of Brown's descendants on Family Search database is far from reliable.
Oh.
It has discrepancies and inconsistencies which make it hard to rely on. Also, the tree on this database is being edited constantly, which further compromises the integrity of the information. But PolitiFact does concede that the tree does show a possible direct descent for Kamala Harris from Brown, but there is lack of corroborating evidence and also other records which suggest otherwise. So let's just not talk about it anymore.
Well, that's what they're doing. But see, here's the catch, which I try to train people to focus on. What did they skip? Now, if you start talking about the tree, okay, that's kind of like ancillary information. There are going to be actual documents and records in Jamaica, in their libraries that you can trace. It's not like he was just some random person who owned slaves. He was a prominent person. Every prominent person who had, I mean, and the English were very cocky. So they documented everything back in those days. So to think you can't figure out, this or can't corroborate it, you're political. You could have easily sent somebody down there to check. You could have easily just reached out to one of the embassy buildings or attaches. There's a gazillion other things you could have done to confirm or deny. What they did is they took the one piece of evidence is that would be considered the least credible and then put a disclaimer to it.
Mm-hmm.
So now, if there would have been a records coming from the Census Bureau of Jamaica showing you this, then how do you refute that? But they didn't even go to that, knowing that information is hidden.
And I don't know if there's like any other articles here that would suggest otherwise. It's just kind of a lot of questions.
Of course.
So they just don't even go look into it anymore. Let it back. So obviously they're they are there.
Well, think about how many billions that the Biden Harris campaign received from Silicon Valley.
Yeah.
Obviously showing even if let's give the disclaimer that okay, Joe Biden, Kamala Harris, and their staff, nobody at all reached out to a tech monopoly to assist. But if you have prominent people who work in that industry, they can do things to tilt in your favor, whether you ask for it or not. I mean, what is it? The super PACs do it all the time. They say, "Oh yeah, we don't have anything to do with the campaign," but for some reason, they just happen to do things that benefit the campaign.
This all comes from her father, by the way. She said, my roots go back within my lifetime to my paternal grandmother, Miss Christie.
Yes, and that would be the Indian.
Christiana Brown, descendant of Hamilton Brown, who is on record as plantation and slave owner and founder of Brown. And to my maternal grandmother, Miss Iris Finnegan, farmer and educator from Ennistown and Inverness, ancestry unknown. That's what he said. David J. Harris, her father, in an op-ed in Jamaica Global Online. So you look at that, you see, like, the dad says this.
And when you read that information, now you got to ask yourself, well, if her father is basically saying his paternal his mother is of Indian descent and his father is of Caucasian descent, then where does this Black or African American coming in to the whole picture? Because we all know that her mother is was it Tamil? I believe that's the specific community. But her mother would be, of Indian. Her father would be of half Indian, half European. So how is Kamala Harris African American? And I'll tell you what that is. That's the racism in the media.
Yeah.
And plain, well, the fact that the Black community is only 13%, they can't very much speak back for themselves against the media. So what happens is they're just saying, well, she has darker skin and she lives in Jamaica. Jamaican. That doesn't make you Jamaican.
She's more Indian than anything. She's Indian.
According to what I understand, 75% Indian. I mean, because I used to say before, I'm like, wait a minute, okay, let's do this now. Okay, let's say, for instance, the grandmother, let's say the grandmother was Black. And that would mean the father would be a minimum of 25% Black. So that would put Kamala at 12% at best. But now hearing this from his own words, he's saying his mother is Indian.
I don't know.
Well, what I try to tell people is we live in such a propagandized
she's estranged from him.
Oh, she is estranged from him.
I bet. Yeah.
Well, remember the comment when he came out about the primaries. A lot of people they only focused on that one comment about the smoking weed comment.
Oh yeah.
But there was more that he was saying, and so the media took that and he started saying that, and so in order to take the light away from all the other stuff that he's saying, they focus on that one comment. And I mean, what I find is what the media will do is, even when there is a story, what they'll do is let's go to the least critical part of the story, and let's just focus on this part over here. Let's leave all this other stuff on the side. Let's not even go into this stuff.
They're doing that now with the vaccines and the virus and like all the adverse effects and stuff. And children are getting injected with this, and they don't know what they're getting into.
Well, I mean,
and the myocarditis.
Yes, I mean, well, explain to the person on that.
Inflammation of the heart, like it gives these children 12 to 17 or 16, whatever the hell their age cutoff is for children now. But you know, it gives them these issues, and it gives them issues at 18 and above, like really big heart issues that are going to be with them for possibly forever. This vaccine from Pfizer is doing that.
Well, and that's something that I've noticed. It doesn't matter how minimal your criticism, or even not, we won't even say criticism, just questioning of anything is it's not even allowed. I mean, and I thought about something interesting. Like I tell people, I said, you know, most vaccines or drugs in general, they'll say like this drug is 99.9 or 99.6 or 99.7. They rarely ever, in fact, I couldn't remember until the COVID stuff started happening, where they start literally saying, this is 100%, you know, safe. This is 100%. 100% was never used because all the lawsuits that would come if they did come down with something. And so now 100% is the thing. And it's interesting, if you pay attention to news outside of the US, what you start seeing is there's cases where they're showing more of, okay, this person died, this person had a blood clot. And now certain countries are saying, nope, we're not doing either Pfizer, or we're not doing Moderna, or we're not doing AstraZeneca. And they're not, this is not being brought up in our media. But, I mean, but for me, I realize you can't get anything out of this. Our media.
They're bought. Like, if you just look at, there was an article from IJC, journalism, gatekeepers, Bill Gates, all about Bill Gates and how he funds all these media organizations. And then I was just looking because I frequent Twitter a lot, and I don't follow, but I look at certain tweets on one account to get the kind of media craziness that's going on with these vaccines and everything else. And I saw somebody had commented, and I hate when they do this. This is a gripe for me as somebody who's a researcher, as somebody who is all fact-based in my argument. I hate seeing screenshots. You have to link to the original article. I should not have to do the work for you, but I did for the booster shot thing. So they're already starting the booster shot trials. I have evidence of that on my Twitter account at Elle. Sometimes at Elle Latham is still bullshit. It depends. I change it from time to time, and then I have like heroin as like the banner on Twitter. And then sometimes I'll have Bill Gates with a fine face. Sometimes I'll have Bill Gates and his friend Jeffrey Epstein. But I was looking into that, and then I was also looking at a recent one today. I found one that was talking about the donors, the funders of the CDC. It was a very easy meme to pull off without very much information to conclude to that specific meme. So I looked into it myself, and I couldn't find anything on the CDC website concerning funding, just grants and stuff. But I went to CDC Foundation, and that's where the good shit is. I'm going to go down the list of every single organization that is listed as a funder of $50,000 and above of this health agency because it's hilarious.
And 50,000, keep in mind, that is some people, that's more than a lot of people make per year.
And I'm sure a lot of it's millions, but they don't want to say it's like million and above, like major donors and other organizations. So our donors, you can go to cdcfoundation.org. I will leave a link, as always, in the show notes. So, going down the list. One, they have a partnership page, too, that I'll also link to. That shows that Bill and Melinda Gates Foundation is not included, but they are major donors, as it turns out. But there are Pfizer, and there is Merck, and there is Bank of America, Northrop Grumman, all kinds of fun shit. Who's Alan Hamilton? Okay, so 50,000 and above. Anonymous, who cares? Act Blue Charities.
Isn't that interesting?
I've never heard of that.
Yeah.
Have you guys heard of them? That's news to me.
I don't know.
Is that
maybe like a Dodger foundation or something? Blue, the Dodger blue maybe?
I don't know. I've never heard of them. I've never had a lawsuit with them at all.
I don't know.
Adobe,
really?
Adobe. I'm just going to, the relevant ones, not going to go through everyone because there's just not enough time for this random shit. American Airlines, Incorporated. American Express Foundation, the usual suspects.
What's in your wallet?
AstraZeneca. What? Huh?
What?
Why?
What?
That seems a little weird.
AstraZeneca.
Athena Health.
Athena Health too.
Bayer. Good old Bayer. Bayer Corporation.
Why would they have pharmaceuticals
and
drug companies?
Amazing. Bank of America.
Mm-hmm. And not to mention, Bayer is Monsanto.
Yeah.
Yeah, do some research on this.
Mm-hmm. Bill and Melinda Gates Foundation.
What?
No way.
Really?
Why? Oh my gosh. Bloomberg philanthropy. Gotta have Bloomberg's money.
Bloomberg. Oh, yeah.
Who's Alan Hamilton Incorporated? You love that. Bloomingdale, of course.
What? Get you the best players ever, right?
Cargill Incorporated. Love that.
Yeah, they're not doing it.
Centers for Disease Control and Prevention. To themselves.
CDC. Really?
But they're independent from the CDC Foundation according to their website. That's interesting.
I didn't know any better. I'm a little slow. But that kind of sounds like, what's that thing called? Conflict of interest?
Yeah, there's a lot of those here. We also have Cigna Foundation.
Oh, really? Insurance company, right?
Yeah. And then Clorox. Wash your hands.
Clorox, really?
Wash your hands, everyone. Clean the surfaces with Clorox. Like Columbia University. Didn't expect that one.
Oh, well, you got to remember, whenever they do these drugs, a lot of times they farm it out to these different colleges and they get these grant programs to work on different things.
Emory, of course.
Of course, Emory, Atlanta.
Gotta have Emory. Dell, gotta get a Dell.
Oh, yeah.
Dude, gotta
Figure that he's hanging out with buddy Michael Dell.
Oh, wait. This can't be right.
What? What are we doing?
Facebook. What?
What? You're telling me that
the fact checker?
That the fact checkers are getting, and the people who decide which stuff needs to be censored on Facebook, that they're involved with them?
Fidelity Investment. Gavi. The what is it called? Something Alliance. Vaccine Institute, whatever the fuck it is. That's another one from Bill and Melinda Gates. We also have Saks. Gibbs Annual Giving Fund. Gibbs Annual Giving Fund.
But Elle, you could be just being unfair because Goldman Sachs happens to be in most presidents' cabinets too.
I can't be seeing this right.
What?
Google? What?
Google.
Not the one that's always telling us about.
Could that be why I might have been having some problems finding certain things I've been searching
sense because they do have the CDC information on every fucking video that mentions CDC or COVID-19 or anything.
But while we're on CDC real quick, I happen to know somebody who literally got their whole page taken down for reading ingredients that were listed on the CDC's main page.
How does that make sense?
Yeah.
Make it make sense. Harvard, of course.
Harvard, what? Harvard.
They also work with Jeffrey Epstein, so that's really fun.
Mm-hmm.
This has to be Illuminati, I swear. Illumina Corporate Foundation.
Well, they're gonna do that here.
No,
Well,
very
they
Illuminati.
gotta play with it a little bit. Because see, you throw a couple like that, then see the crazy conspiracy theorist here.
Johns Hopkins University. What? They put on the eventual ones.
But for those who don't know, I'm gonna be straight with you guys real quick. For those who don't know, Johns Hopkins University, and look it up if you don't believe it, they are known for clinical trials.
Yes.
That's what their big thing is. Clinical trials and dropping clinical research.
Mm-hmm. And they do a lot of preparedness.
A lot of it.
Outbreaks, which somehow end up killing over 60 million people every time. I don't know how they always do that.
Yeah, I don't know how their goal is to always be ahead and prepared, but never are prepared and ahead.
Yeah, they always lose. I don't know why in the simulation. Johnson & Johnson? What?
What?
How? Why?
Is this what is this, like the third pharmaceutical company? And I believe 2 of them which have released vaccinations.
Kaiser Permanente, the vaccine distributor, which is also working together with the Hollywood Bowl, which I'm so fucking done with because they're doing the vaccination or unvaccinated seating, and it's all depending on whether you have a card showing that you're vaccinated or whether you have info to show that you've got a negative test, I guess a PCR test, which is a piece of crap, but still counts for some reason. And then you can go to the thing outside and watch the thing, whatever the thing is that you want to watch. Yeah. Outside.
Yes, outside.
You have to prove that you were vaccinated to watch something outside.
Outside.
So I'm worried about what's going to happen with Disney because if that's what's happening outside, who knows what's going to happen inside? They're probably going to have the green pass by then.
Well, I mean, you hear that the CDC is released. What is it? They said now you don't have to wear masks anymore. Mm-hmm. But California is trying to extend the mask mandate.
Mm-hmm. Yes, and get mad at you if you don't wear one, even or give you a look if you're even outside not wearing. Like, come on.
Well, and here's some things which the media always gives you this impression that it is life or death for every single person, even if you get it. And here's the thing which they don't tell you. If you actually look into the COVID death, one thing you're going to start noticing is a lot of them are elderly.
Mm-hmm. Most of them.
A lot of them have some kind of immunocompromised situation, whether it's heart disease, or cancer, or some other issue that was going on. And then the third category you see are the ones who didn't know they had, like, say, an irregular heart. And that's when it's happening. Now, something else I noticed kind of interesting is when I started looking up the flu in certain areas, the flu numbers were just dramatically down last year. I don't know how that happened.
So surprising.
The COVID numbers are high and the flu numbers are down.
But it's the mask.
I mean, that's what it is. So maybe flu season, we should have just all been wearing masks instead for all these years instead of getting flu shots.
Yeah. Maybe the shots weren't effective.
Maybe they weren't because people were still getting the flu. And I mean, obviously, if the mask is the only thing that's changed, and a lot of people I know don't take flu shots anyway. And I don't know. I mean, somebody make sense of this for us because I'm not that bright of a guy.
Well, I have a question. Why the fuck is Lockheed Martin Corporation on this list?
Lockheed, I'm telling you.
I wonder why.
If you wanted to like make an Illuminati type like list of corporations that would be in, I mean, I couldn't figure out better ones.
Oh, we're getting somewhere with this because Merck and Company also.
Merck company. You gotta love the name on top of it. And people think, you know what Merc is? Be like,
Yeah.
where that word comes from? Mercenary.
Mercenary.
I mean,
Got a lot of those in Iraq right now.
Got a lot of those in
Afghanistan,
Silicon Valley too.
Yeah, we got them everywhere.
Actually, Wall Street's probably the worst market.
Well, I don't know how they got on the list, but Microsoft, like what? How did that happen?
Microsoft, I thought they had a bad falling out.
Microsoft and the CDC. Morgan Stanley Global Impact Funding Trust Incorporated, MSGIF Incorporated. That's a lot. That's a long title for Morgan Stanley, which is right next to Morgan Stanley. Like literally, like just say Morgan Stanley.
Oh, wait a minute. Did I just see New York Life there?
Yeah, you did.
New York Life. Remind me if I'm wrong. Is that not a what is it? Health insurance, not health insurance, but life insurance company.
Life insurance.
And what's life insurance for?
If you die.
If you die.
Oops.
Okay. All right. Let's go on.
I mean, just at the end, you see like Northrop Grumman Corporation, which is just great. You can't have Lockheed Martin without Northrop Grumman. They're like twins.
Yeah, I mean, I wouldn't be surprised.
Where's Raytheon?
At this point, where's Raytheon and General Dynamics at?
I'm waiting for Raytheon. Honestly.
I mean,
that's all it's missing.
If I see KBR or like Halliburton in there too, I'm done.
Okay.
I'm done.
Then we're at 50,000 and above. Continued, I guess. I don't know what happened. I bet what they did, what happened. I can't prove this, but it's a theory. 50,000 and above is supposed to be here, but before that, it's supposed to be 500,000 and above. But they changed it to 50,000 and above, so it wouldn't look like they paid this much money.
And on top of that, because I agree with that, and I think to add on to it is they broke it up. That way that they can kind of skirt whatever laws they're doing.
Oh, and that just happens to have PATH, which is the organization that worked in India with the Bill and Melinda Gates Foundation. It had some issues there with the vaccine. Little informed consent issues there.
Anybody who thinks that anybody who questions Bill Gates is just cuckoo, look up his drug trials in India, especially with the youth. Especially with children. And then also, I can't remember which country it was in Africa, but in Africa, there was a similar situation that happened there. But that was very identical to what happened in India. And if you look, who's at the, WHO or CDC?
Tedros.
Yes, Tedros.
Tedros was into some shit.
Well, if you go and look back, he was right there, kind of covering a little bit of things up over there in India, I believe.
Yeah.
So it's like, how do you fail upward, and then on top of it, we got to put in what is his actual career? Because
he's not a
scientist or a doctor. It's not in the medical field. Yep. He is some kind of bureaucrat who's been put into this overseeing like position, and I'm wondering how and why, especially with his track record.
Yep. And then it just so happens right after PATH, like underneath is PayPal. I don't know how that happened.
Well, yeah. PayPal gets right in the middle.
PayPal's great, right? Peter Thiel, we love him. He's great.
Yeah, I mean, none of this stuff is, it's all normal, right? It's all perfectly normal.
This is just the way it is. We shouldn't change it. We should just accept it.
Well, that's what I try to tell people. It's like, I'm not even, I get it, the powers that be, they're so worried about little old me and Elle, like just talking trash about what they have going on, as if we could do a damn thing. I mean, as if I could do anything about it. And then here's the crazy part about it. They don't even really have to hide it because nobody can do anything anyway.
Yeah. I don't know why the fuck they're there. Was PetSmart treatment?
PetSmart. No, that one came from left field on the other. PetSmart where it came from in there.
But we're back to normal with Pfizer Incorporated.
Oh yeah, that's Pfizer. I don't
That
know.
makes sense.
Well, remember before when they said something like or in the early days, they were talking about people catching COVID from their animals and their pets,
Yes,
and then possibly pets getting it also.
yes.
I don't know. Maybe somebody was thinking of what if the dogs start getting it? Now we got to get the dogs vaccinated too.
And put a mask on it.
But yeah, sorry, Scrappy, you need a mask.
Wear a mask.
And you too, little Simba the cat.
I don't know how this one. This is just it's another out of nowhere one. Pinterest. Like it's everyone. Where's Reddit? I'm ready. I'm waiting for Reddit.
Well, technically, now that you think about it, Pinterest technically does do a lot of memes and stuff about what's going
That
on.
is
And if
interesting.
you want to kind of like smooth over somebody who's been kind of talking a lot of trash about you, it's a good way.
Then we've got credentials.
Oh, another funny.
The Rite Aid Foundation.
Right Aid Foundation, really.
SC Johnson and Johnson, not just or SC Johnson and Son. So not just Johnson and Johnson, but we have SC Johnson and Son, which is the other part of the
Yeah,
corporation.
that's the part which you know, that we think of as the lovable and cute side. No, they do all your stuff for babies.
Then we've got Roche Diagnostics Corporation.
Oh yeah.
A little bit conflicting with the testing and everything, but okay. Then Salesforce. We've heard about them a lot this year. I mean, a lot of researchers have. Look them up when you get the chance. I don't have time to get into that.
Yeah, cool.
But that was fucked up. Then Siemens Healthcare Diagnostics
Really?
Incorporated.
Man, don't they have that a lot of stuff?
I mean, I think it's just a coincidence that Spotify. Like that. That's clearly a coincidence.
It's something I'm dying to say about them, but I'm like, I'm gonna leave it alone. I mean, I'll say this, that if you look back to that company, before they became what they are now, they had a very, very prominent role in American history. Very prominent, more than most people would
Siemens,
understand.
not Spotify.
No, not Spotify, not Spotify.
Let's just clarify.
We're talking about Siemens.
Siemens.
And,
SIEMENS, not.
and without Elle getting Elle into too much trouble,
No,
I'll
we know
smooth
what
this
it was.
out. I'll say
They were directly involved.
look up them and World War II. That's all I'll say.
Also, while you're at it, they're not on the list that I can see, but IBM is really making bucks off of this whole propaganda campaign, vaccines and sports. So look into them and the thing that we're not going to talk about exactly.
Yeah.
Normally I would because I just don't give a
But
shit.
see, I used to tell people like, this is how you know who's in power.
Yeah.
By what you can't say. By what you cannot say. Because like for instance, I tell people all the time, yeah, you can get some heat for talking about every community, but in one community, everybody knows you better shut your mouth. Or if you're just bold like that and want to keep getting your tunnels and shut down, or if you have millions and you want to start losing, whatever. That's the reason why people like Sean Jackson and Nick Cannon had to tuck their tails between their legs.
Yeah. So after that, we get to T-Mobile, of course.
What? Now,
that had so much to do
just a question. How many Americans have
that would be a good question to ask. I don't, because I'm smart enough. I'm informed enough. I don't want to say smart, but I'm informed enough to know that those major companies suck ass because I've been informed by them of how much they suck ass by actually using their services. So after using their services for a long time, I decided I'm not going to use their services anymore, and I was going to prepaid my plan. And so I go with straight talk. I'm sure it's probably compromised by now, but
Well, they're all
try
compromised
something.
by now. I mean,
We're on the Sprint network or whatever.
I guess the one advantage we do have being here in California is the fact that there's cell towers everywhere, so you can get a not as big company cell provider, and you can still get all the same access. Whereas if you're living in say like Cleveland or something, it might be a little harder if you have certain smaller carriers. So you might be stuck with having to get with whatever T-Mobile or AT&T or whatever. I understand. I've been there before. When I was in Jacksonville, Florida, where the base was at, I had horrible signal, and at that time I had Sprint. If I went to even that part of the town, I had horrible reception. And so, at least for Jacksonville, Verizon had the best power. But now they all bounce off each other's power. So
yeah, it's literally impossible to not use one of the big three.
well, that's the goal. Monopoly. That's
Yeah.
the game that they're playing that we don't realize we're in the middle of.
Speaking of, I know we just got out of Spotify, and that was like a little weird, but like, have you seen all these TikTok videos lately?
Yeah.
There's a lot of TikTok going on my
And my
feed.
TikTok for me.
I don't even do TikTok. I
can
see
say
a lot of it.
I'm old, I guess. I don't know. I'm not cool, so I didn't really know much about TikTok. And then all of a sudden, like TikTok exploded.
They're on the list.
Really?
Yes. United Health Foundation, United Health Group.
Well, they had United Health Group, and they already had Kaiser. I mean, I guess that makes sense. You got to cover the other hand, right?
Vanguard Group. I don't know the Vertex Foundation.
Well, see what these are the smaller companies. You know, when they get that, when you're out of coverage area, that's the
Walgreens.
Walgreens. Oh, this is a place where you would be picking up the medication for.
Where's CVS? Oh, it gets weird. Welcome Sanger Institute. Know a little bit about Sanger. We're not going to get into, I'm sure.
Yeah,
But look up Margaret Sanger.
You don't know who Margaret Sanger is. That I don't feel you're engaged in any of it.
Eugenics.
And then on top of it, if you are a minority, especially if you don't know who Margaret Sanger is, you need to get up, go to your kitchen, open the freezer door, put your head in it, and bang it like 3 times. You need to know who this is.
We haven't had a bank in a while, so yeah, let's go
Oh,
with Wells Fargo.
Let's get back to, of course.
We gotta have Wells Fargo.
Of course, we have Bank of America, the two that are most notorious for charging overdraft fees and every kind of fee they can think of.
And cluster bombs overseas that people don't like to talk about, but they do fund that.
Oh, yes, they do.
I posted some information about that on a Memorial Day in the past.
Well, it's funny to me when I'll talk to people like, what was going on in Afghanistan and Iraq, and they talk about, they're there for this reason, or the Afghanis they're going to do this so that they can keep us there. Afghanis doing anything or not doing anything to keep us there. We're there because our, I'll say, Western companies. It's not just America. The Western companies are taking resources out of there, whether they be from the poppy fields, whether it's oil, whether it's other types of minerals. That's why our corporations are there. That's the reason why our troops are there. So it has nothing to do with Iraq or Iran or any of that. Just know our corporations are getting something.
Letting the plane fly as it does, but also saying that it's just a coincidence. I'm sure there's no symbiotic relationship here at all. But the World Health Organization is also on the list.
Well, you had CDC. How can you not have the WHO?
I mean, who's out?
Yeah.
Who's not out? Who? What did I say? Who let the virus out? Like that's what the thing was before.
Oh wow!
I'll say I don't care. Zoom. You know the thing that we never heard about until like 2019, 2020. Mm-hmm. It existed before, but now it exists even more.
Like the only people who I knew of who really knew about Zoom was like a lot of my colleagues who do, that we've been doing these different panels and things like that. And even a lot of, I guess, content creators didn't necessarily use Zoom because we would just you were able to interact with each other, before a lot of this COVID stuff. So outside of the handfuls of us that were trying to get in touch with other content creators across the country, outside of like a handful of like business people, most people did not know Zoom. Oh, I thought of something else. speaking of this show, which I found interesting, uh, the now that everybody is starting to say, you know what, it's a possibility that it could have been. And
Oh, yeah,
then
now
and
we're
then
allowed
then
to
we're
talk about
having them now we're dealing with the game research questions and all that stuff. Well, at the
That's
time, at the time, I had found information that showed that there was a possible leak in Wuhan, China, and there were prominent Americans and American corporations who were investing in this lab. And so, do you want to blame it on China because they lost it, or do you want to blame it on America for running a lab in China that's lost?
Yeah, that's what I want to ask a lot of the people who are.
I mean, they're both at fault.
Like,
Actually, I look at it
for
as
example.
I mean, I look at it as Americans are more at fault because you guys are the ones running a gain of research lab.
Gain of function.
Gain of function. That's
yeah.
But here's another thing. Why are they running the lab like that in China?
Because they're skirting laws here. Just like they outsource everything to China that they can't do here legally.
Mm-hmm.
Like the slave labor for our phones
and
other things. So why wouldn't they do it in this case? Like, duh.
And that's the thing about it. Everybody is still like, well, no, it can't possibly be that. It can't be any. It's like, how many different things you have to look before you have to say, well, I mean, damn, it looks like this.
And I'm a conspiracy theorist if I say that he mentioned, Fauci, the one, had mentioned in 2017 that there would be an outbreak for Trump to deal with, and they needed to be prepared. How did he know that?
Well, I mean,
I'm a conspiracy theorist for mentioning that exists.
But did you see was it CDC or World Health? They had like the whole scenario of like, okay, this is what it was like one of their prepared drills. Now, granted, they do these all the time, but this one was like, this one was a little bit eerie how much it echoed everything about COVID. I mean, down to like, they had a portion where they acted out what they believed like the reporters would be the questions that they would ask, and like what the specialists would be saying back to the reporters. And the weird thing for me is that you can literally match some of these newscasts up, like identical, and it's almost word for word exactly. Now you can have some questions that are going to echo, but how do you have like, I mean, chunk after chunk after chunk, which is exactly just like this plan that you guys planned out.
Exactly. It's maybe this simulation continues. I mean, the hoax people do have some points. I'll give them some credit that the PCR tests don't work, and that is something that was iterated in one of these exercises at Clade X by Tara O'Toole, the one behind Dark Winter as well, and Invention One, who works at Intel as executive vice president. Just so happens. And she said herself that is not a diagnostic test, and they need a rapid point of care test. And did we ever get one?
Nope.
We got antigen tests. I don't really know what those do necessarily, but I think you have to look at the situation and you have to look at the facts, and the facts just do not support this being a back soup situation. When they came out with that shit, I was at work and I was like, there's no way that's true.
Well, and then on top of it, you know, like I can't, what was it, Washington Post, where they're saying now it's racist if you say the lab leak scenario. And I'm like, and granted, I didn't come up with this idea. I think it might have been Sauger who said, he'll make a good point every time. But he said, isn't it more racist to say that it's natural that these people are eating bat soup and all that, and that's just normal? And so they infected everybody from their bat soup and you know.
And that caused a lot of racist reaction.
And I believe it led to a lot of the anti-Asian violence which happened. Now, it didn't help with Trump calling it Kung Flu and Wuhan, but that doesn't help either. But if you didn't have the media saying, oh no, it definitely came from that, then you wouldn't have had that narrative. If you just looked at it as a lab leak, then that's something you could look at as that's something which the scientists, government, those types of people did that, not blaming it on the people of China in their dietary habits. I mean, that's outrageous to me.
It is. And then I wanted to say, just for no particular reason, I found a clip and I shared it on my Twitter. So I share it here because it's interesting. Because there was a show, and again, if you look at the predictive programming, they'll be like, oh, it's just coincidence or whatever. But this is a show from the UK called Utopia. You may have heard of it, from 2013, and it aired for however long it aired. And then they decided to bring that back, but to the United States, just before a pandemic happened. In 2019, they started shooting. They stopped shooting October 15th, or no, 16th, 17th, 17th, 16th, 16th it must be, because they stopped shooting on the 15th, but they were like done on the 17th, I mean the 16th, goodness, of 2019, which was a couple of days before Event 201 happened. Just so happened. This show, not yet, this show was aired throughout 2020, but then all of a sudden it just like ended. Like it had one season and that was it. And then it was on Amazon Prime, funnily enough. John Cusack's first TV role. And again, it's based on that work, but it's different. So I'm going to play two different clips actually, because I want to be as truthful as I can and show you the difference between these clips, because I listened to the original one, which is basically about a virus outbreak thing and how this dude is behind it for population control reasons. It just so happens. But,
really?
But the clip from 2013 is starkly different than the 21. And somebody even put like 2013 versus 2020 because they saw the difference.
Noticed the best difference.
I'll try and find it.
It's kind of like what we were talking about before, the difference between the two.
Okay. I don't know if this is where to start it. Let me start right here. I don't want to play the whole thing. Okay. Just listen. You'll understand it. What are we hearing about now? So that's that clip.
Wow. Wow, I need to watch
Take
this.
that in a little bit.
Wow, I need to watch
It
that.
gets fucker upper.
Wow.
Let's hear John, because he's got some shit to say as his doctor character. Hold on a second. His doctor character, he's like a famous doctor or whatever, and he like put this virus out there and the vaccine. You'll hear about the vaccine, which is great. This is in 2021. What sounds familiar? Figure it out. Here it is. The world. Nope. This was a compilation. Yeah. Why would they do that? Line it up. Go look at sleep. That's all. So that's
Wow.
fun.
I mean,
Just fiction.
fiction. Okay. Man, I almost don't know what to say after that. I mean, I'm trying to remember who was it where they were talking about. They were literally talking about mirroring some of the things. And I've heard this from multiple so-called elites,
Mm-hmm.
and they just like said it like openly. What was the prince that just died?
Philip.
Philip. Remember what he said?
Oh yeah.
His quote for the audience, so you guys can be refreshed. He said when he died, if he could come back, he would come back as a fire, so he could take care of overpopulation. That is what a lot of believe.
Mm-hmm.
Now the weird thing for me, honestly, is like, if I was like in that room, in that scene, or whatever, and they could have my voice and say, you know what? Here's the problem. The people that have been running everything for like the past 500 years, you guys are the fucking problem.
Mm-hmm.
It's not that we can't share. You can't share.
Yeah.
The real solution, if you really want to help everybody, is how about you spread the wealth? If you spend, I mean, studies show that once people get to a certain financial status, they have less children naturally.
Yeah.
So if you could get rid of the poverty, then maybe it could help with that situation in a responsible way. But no, you guys want to do greed, kill everybody off and just live exactly the same way. We'll live exactly gaudy and have
Yeah.
all of these planes flying over the place and everything.
Like Bill Gates, like was trying to. That was his reasoning for vaccination. Like he got the vaccination for controlling the population.
And, like, and let people know, Elle, how long ago did you get the vaccine?
Oh man, I just read the article, like 2000. I can't remember. But it was not. It was a long time ago, but it was around the same time.
It didn't close to like 20 years ago.
I can actually get that information because I have this trusty guy, the cover of Continuous Truth about Bill Gates, Microsoft, and Jeffrey Epstein from The Wonderful Web, which is a 31-minute long read, but probably a little bit more if you want to check your sources, which I think you should do when you're reading an article of anybody. That's what they would want you to do. So it's like 45 minutes for me specifically because I had to look at it. But it goes through all of the shit that's going on. There's a really good article that she like downloaded and put in the PDF from Vanity Fair from January 22nd, 2001, which actually mentions Bill by name as an associate of Epstein. What? In 2001? An associate.
2001.
An associate of Epstein and Gillen. Specifically, let me actually get a look at it because I want to get the actual situation right. Okay, so I guess and the guy who wrote it is Nigel Roth. He's the one who wrote it from Evening Standard. It's all about Prince Andrew. He doesn't have a life, but Prince Andrew from the royal family of Windsor. Andrew Spixer, she's the daughter of Robert Maxwell, and she's manipulating his jet set lifestyle. So it's all about Dylan, manipulating him, telling him what to do. And then she has this financier boyfriend who won't get married to her, so she hates him for that Epstein. And there's interesting information that they went on holiday together as a British thing. For her 39th birthday, they went to Thailand. So that's fun. We have a little bit of information regarding Thailand, unfortunately, that there was some trafficking of young ladies, young children who are girls, to Epstein from someone who accused him, which was Virginia Jupiter Roberts. So she had made that accusation before in the Netflix special. Is it Dirty Rich? I don't know, but Filthy Rich. That was based on the book by James Patterson. Was it James Patterson? Who, oddly enough, worked on the book. The president is missing with Bill Clinton. But yeah, let's let him take care of that.
I heard this is kind of like a little off subject, kind of interesting thing with Bill Gates that he said, I believe. I gotta double check it, or you guys can all double check me. But his excuse for being around Epstein so much was that he was getting tax information. That's one of them. And the other excuse was that he was trying to help him get a Nobel Peace Prize.
Oh yeah, that's new.
So yeah, I'm like, why do you need to go to Jeffrey Epstein of all people? And how is Jeffrey Epstein connected to the people that give out Nobel Peace Prize? How is this going? This is what you need to explain. Because if he's tied to those people, then we know what he was doing. So what are they doing? I mean, I know a lot of the QAnon and conservatives were talking about the elites and small children and all that, and it always sounded a little off to me because okay, yeah, whatever. But we don't think of sometimes that if you're under 18, you're still a child technically. So a 15, 16-year-old girl or boy, that still would be, that could qualify under children that they're messing with still. So that's something where the QAnon people, they might have been a little bit off in the age range, but they weren't wrong in what was going on.
No.
Maybe they might have been wrong about location, but they weren't wrong in what was overall going on.
Okay, and then so at one point, it's a PDF. I have to get through. It's WS. Okay. This one. Okay. Here we go. It talks about a party they went to and everything. I think Harvey Weinstein. It's like everybody.
When you start looking through their notes, you start realizing it's like a who's of different elites.
She found out this was from.
Well, and I asked the question: if we're all just crazy conspiracies, why is this stuff getting scrubbed from the internet?
Yeah, what's that about? Also, his website after he died in the jail cell with no one watching him, with paper sheets by hanging, which is normally not happening to anyone, but it was accepted as the truth then. After that happened, his website for his little foundation, Jeffrey Epstein VI, which I had checked out before, was nowhere to be seen. I had to go to archives.org to find it. So they scrubbed that after he died. And it was super strange. And then I don't think I knew about Boris, like the guy who was who worked as an engineer in the Bill and Melinda Gates, was the executor or named as the executor in his will. And she shows in this article that he like denied. He was like, "Oh no, I don't want to do that. Like I'm good." I don't know why he said that he wanted me to do it, but like there's a lot of connections to Microsoft and the foundation and everything within part. So specifically, there's this part, which is interesting because when you think Epstein, you don't think Bill Gates first. But in this article, for some reason, he came up first. Epstein was a guest at the Queen's birthday party and traveled with Gilling to Andrew's country weekend at Sandringham before Christmas. He has made many millions out of his business links with the likes of Bill Gates, Donald Trump, and Ohio billionaire Leslie Wexner. He runs. How does he come last after Bill Gates and Donald Trump?
Well, and especially with the stuff that happened of concerning him over the past year. There's been a lot of news about him in particular.
Yeah.
Which I'm pretty sure you all know we won't go into that.
And we didn't even hear anything about his goings on with Jeffrey Epstein after a certain amount of time.
No, you would think that they
until the vaccine
isolated different things. Now all of a sudden they're together.
Now the vaccines have been distributed. Everybody's lining up to get jabbed, and now we can hear about Bill and Jeffrey and their whole friendship. And now it's totally okay in the media.
Well, it's funny to me how it's like. You can only talk about certain stuff at certain times. Exactly. And it's like, let's go to a so-called conspiracy theory, which I feel like it's benign to be able to talk about at this point because mostly everybody's dead who's been involved. So let's go to Kennedy assassination. If you start talking about the Zapruder film at all, I mean that was enough where you could have probably gotten picked up by a black man. Mm-hmm. Now it's talked about as like, oh, maybe this probably has some life to it. Maybe there's something to it. I mean, me doing a lot of experience with weapons and shooting, the magic bullet theory, I was like 12 and I was like, get the fuck out of here. That's ridiculous. You're not telling me that a bullet is going through all of these different things and that come out even close to that condition. I mean, just hitting a bone, it starts tearing up. And most people don't realize most bullets are lead. Mm-hmm. Lead is malleable. It's already hot and it's hitting a hard surface. What is it going to do? Smash. Duh. So, I mean, and you're saying that it's went through bone, metal, fabric, vinyl, then some more bone, and then more fabric and vinyl, then more bone to fall out on the floor. Huh? How strong was the rifle he was shooting? For that, I mean, or what kind of grain count did he have in those rounds for it to propel that bullet that far, that hard? I mean, that almost sounds like he's shooting with a hollow point or something.
That was the first time you should be like, if you were alive then, you should be like, wait, the government's full of, and the news is full of, everyone's full of shit. And Jack Ruby and that whole thing.
Yeah, how he got just, killed off. Well,
and he had ties to Russia.
And well, if you start looking into the Clay Peterson, he was the only guy which ever took the trial. And I mean, you guys can see it in Oliver Stone's movie. You're not familiar with it, but
we watched that in class.
I watched it. I watched it in school also. That's how. I mean, that was at the time. Like these situations, like they looked at it like you're a QAnon. Like equivalent to a QAnon person in those days. To even mention that stuff. At earlier times, it could get you in a lot of trouble. Now it's like, talked about it, like, maybe this is possible. Kind of like with the whole lab leak situation.
And the UFO
you were getting persecuted before, now you can talk about it. I mean, the UFO thing, I have so many theories and thoughts on that. And, for those who don't know, I'm a very, very religious, I guess so-called religious person. I'll say a person of faith. I'll just say I believe in the Bible.
Okay.
And my understanding from the Bible is clear indications to flying objects throughout the Bible. Now, I mean, if you can go to Ezekiel, Revelations, Isaiah, I mean, there's multiple ones that it talks about, even in the Old Testament, it talks about Christ being taken up in a whirlwind and taken away in a cloud. Well, if you were in the times where you don't even have aircraft. What would you call this stuff? All you can do is describe it as stuff you know of.
Yeah.
Clouds is the only thing you see that high in the air. So yeah, they get taken away in some kind of a cloud. It talks about like wheels inside of wheels.
Yes.
I mean, it talks about chariots in the sky.
I was going to mention that.
I mean, hello. Another thing which I tell people all the time, well, I don't know why it never clicked to me. Think about one of the most famous Negro spirits, and they show it in almost every single slave movie I've seen. Swing low,
Sweet chariot.
sweet chariot. As far as I remember, chariots are not in the air. So what would it? Obviously, these slaves had a concept of some kind of flying object coming to save them.
Mm-hmm.
So when everybody thinks, oh, it's beautiful, the aliens and all, no. The Bible is talking about this, telling you this is something definitely different.
Mm-hmm.
And so, yeah, why they can't catch him? That makes perfect sense. If it was from a creator who created everything, of course he could break our so-called rules of science and physics and do all kinds of stuff. Also, I would think if it is getting closer to, say, a judgment day and all kind of more calamities going on, it would make sense that so-called UFOs would be appearing more. Mm-hmm. Because I look at it like this. How I see it is it's almost like, okay, let's check out and see what the enemy before we get ready to launch later. Let's check them out. Let's check their defenses. Okay. They take that long dick symbol. All right. They really mass this amount of people. Okay. This is what they're planning to do now. We're just testing out to see what level of technology you're at. So when they come in and they get involved, it is going to be a flop. That's what they're doing. It's like, okay, so there's no margin for error. It's kind of like this. I'll use this one scripture example about and measure out the temple. They're measuring out the temple right now. It's like, okay, check this out, check this out. How fast? How much power are we going to use against them? You know, that's all I see this point. I know 50% complete pretty good by the day, but explain what these are and explain why many scientists will tell you that we live in a closed atmosphere. If we're in a closed atmosphere, then how did these things get into it?
That's a good question.
And so obviously they have the ability to get through that atmosphere, but we don't. So anything that they're flying in is 100,000 times more technologically advanced than what we do.
Yeah.
And so if you want to fight them, that's all I can tell you.
Well, I want to fight Bill Gates and bring it back to him.
Well, I will. You know what? I'll give a little bit of what I believe. Well, what the Bible tells you this too. For those who are at the top and doing all this shit,
I feel like
the first is
street.
going to be last. Is what it says. So, I mean, almost imagine like the whole world being flipped upside down. Everybody's at the bottom, just like changing places. You know, Eddie Murphy and trading places. And was it Dan Aykroyd?
Yeah.
Yeah. Just imagine that movie on a global scale.
Yeah.
That's what's coming. So that's why part of me kind of like, once I started coming to that realization, I was able to relax and like, oh, have your fun.
Oh, yeah.
Do all that. Do it.
Well, he's being sacrificed now. So
live it up.
They'll all be sacrificed eventually. Nobody's going to get away from the top.
Well, what it says in the Bible, like when that judgment day comes and all that, it talks about how they're going to be hiding away in their holes and shelters and all that, thinking that, oh, everything's going to be fine. And then the hunters are coming. And
they're worried about that too.
They
make a lot of movies about getting hunted.
Exactly. Here's the thing which I want to get across with everybody, and I'm not necessarily trying to convert people into, the Bible or anything right now. Just take the words in. All I'm saying is that these people, whether you believe in the Bible or not, they do. Now, they might pretend that they don't. They might not follow anything, but they believe in what it says in there. They believe that is coming true. I mean, and you can literally look at just some of the over-the-top things, how they'll freak out on something that seems like it's benign or doesn't make sense to anybody else. But to them, they understand if you start peeling away at this layer, you'll start finding things. And so their goal is, no, you talk about this, talk about that. That's the reason why you might see, they might even have on CNN some fiery person talking about this one issue here or there. But on certain other issues, we don't
Big
go into
Pharma
that.
rules all now. And that's why I wanted to get to the new initiative, not that new, but COVAX from the Bill, Melinda Gates Foundation. So you hear about Bill and Jeffrey and their close ties, and that scared Melinda so much that she wanted to divorce him. But, or however many years later, a few years later, she was like, I'm done. I can't anymore.
Maybe it's a pinky in the brain just finally said it's not enough. You can't do it anymore. Okay? I know you want every night you wake up and say, let's take over the world, but okay, I think I'm done with trying to take over the world.
At the same time, they're talking shit about Bill Gates, like the Daily Beast and all these other mainstream outlets. They're still promoting the Pfizer and all of these vaccine companies. I mean, the drug manufacturers make the vaccine, which it can't really be called vaccines at this point because we're in the untested, clinical trial period.
And you have to have years for clinical trials. Keep that in mind.
Yes. And so they're distributing them worldwide through the WHO. There's the WHO again, alongside CEPI, CEPI. Damn it, I fucking forgot what it was called. Coalition for Epidemic Preparedness Institute. I think that's pretty much correct, but I'm going to make sure. Because that's also an organization from the Bill and Melinda Gates Foundation. Yeah, Coalition for Epidemic Preparedness Innovation. And that is, let's see when that was established, 2017, just 4 years ago. And they are working alongside UNICEF to distribute vaccines to the poor and hard-hit countries.
Yeah, I noticed that the vaccinations their number one places where they love to go to is always Africa and India.
Oh, yeah.
And it's because those are two of the largest populations. And I also noticed, why doesn't she go to the places of minority populations that are higher? Well, I mean, it's always over there. The only reason why they don't go to China and do it is because China doesn't allow a lot of foreigners to get in and just randomly do shit like they like to do. Or I believe they would be in China also.
Also, it's Gabby who's working with them as well, which is the vaccine alliance. Global Alliance for Vaccines and Immunization. And so, looking at CEPI's page, just on Wikipedia, you can find out a lot of the surface information. It was conceived in 2015 and formally launched in 2017 as a World Economic Forum. That's funny how that keeps coming up because that's who put on the event 201 alongside the Bill and Melinda Gates Foundation and Johns Hopkins University for the Center for Health Security. And then they also did play that. So that's interesting. They keep coming up. And they disseminate a lot of propaganda of the back and forth, basically. And you will own nothing. You will eat bugs. You will like it, basically. Like that's their thing. And then Klaus Schwab, our wonderful leader of that organization, the founder, had written a book, which I had already read to you guys. You can listen to the reading, the SuperAwkward reading of the COVID-19, the Great Reset book. So that was fun to fucking record and have catharsis while doing so. And
Sorry to interrupt you, but I was going to say, that reminds me of a conversation that I was having on the French House. And a guest that I honestly think you need to get in touch with her and get her on because we have a good conversation. She loves to go into the Great Reset. Also, Ali Alexandria from Slow News Day. Over there with Steve Quicken and Glory Jones also. Shout out to them. I say you definitely should get in touch with her because I'm having her on my show actually next week and we're gonna get into some Great Reset content. So
We can
Actually,
scratch
if
the
you
surface.
want to, I'm just throwing that out there right now while we're on.
Yeah.
I could just send you the link and actually right there. I'll have a nice little fun conversation, three of us.
I don't like to do video stuff because I like to keep it like.
You can keep your avatar camera off like I'm doing right now for this one, you know.
Yeah.
I mean, occasionally, when I'm doing my live streams or whatever, I might have to, you know, step away, like I'm getting a little dry mouth, let me reach over, because what a lot of people don't realize is I set up my whole background, it's actually sitting.
Yeah. We're sitting in my living room right now, by the way. You guys know I have an apartment studio, not a studio apartment. It's very big, but it is, you know, a nice big room, but it's a very simple setup. It's not Joe Rogan in here.
Yeah.
No Tim Dillon.
None of us are like that. I mean, like
We
literally,
can't afford that equipment.
I think on my Instagram you can see the pictures when I was painting my background. Like I literally got like big boards together, put these couple of boards together, and just started trying to paint something. And like, this the sunset's looking kind of good. Let's keep going with the sunset. And then the secret, which a lot of people don't know, which my other background for the political is they just see the green background for now. Trust me, that's not the finished completion. But I'm actually supposed to put in the matrix numbers behind it. So you guys will see it soon when it's finished. So, like I honestly like I flipped the backboard for whichever goes with that going at the time. And so yeah, literally I'll take the camera off, open the fridge up right next to me and grab something to drink or a snack real quick. But yeah, that's a little, you know, how we make the sauce.
There's some other subjects I want to get into very quickly, like rapid fire, and that was like the immunity studies that are going on right now are showing with COVID, if you have a mild case of COVID and you survive it, and but like if you have it and it's like months later, you know, you have immunity usually. That's what they're finding in these studies, and I can link them obviously. But I'm just saying, like, that's good news for me because I'm not going to be taking the untested, unapproved vaccine candidate anytime soon. So maybe when the whole thing is over, and even probably not then because I didn't even take the flu shot and I haven't had any serious flu until COVID.
I mean, in all honesty, since I got out of the military, I don't really even take anything anymore, and I feel perfectly fine. I mean, I try to avoid it. Like, I mean, I've had a bunch of injuries, so I have, you know, I have pretty stronger painkillers, which I'm given. Like, I try to avoid them. I know how easy it can be, even if you follow every single step.
Yeah.
Drink enough water, you eat food, and you grape juice on some of them, whatever you do, all it takes is one time for you to miss one step, and now it's eating at your liver or kidneys or something. I mean, so that's my thing. I say if you guys have any kind of home remedies you can do, if you like want to just light some candles and sit and have a kumbaya fest, chamomile tea, whatever is your, if you like, for instance, I advise garlic heavily. I use garlic for a lot of different ailments. So I try to look for the natural stuff in general.
I have black seed oil.
There you go. It's great for voices.
Turmeric, and then I have like multivitamins that I take daily. I had to take a break because they were like sold out of my usual one. I got a different one, and it's like, but I'm getting used to it. I have to eat food after it because it's not one of those ones that it says on the bottle you can eat it with or without food. But I can't take it without food. So it's a soft gel instead of like a gummy, which is what I'm used to. Because I literally can't even take drugs and like swallow a pill. I literally was not ever able to do that. So when I was a kid, I only had like Robitussin.
I couldn't for a long time. Now I can take like the biggest sports pill. Swallow, no water, no nothing.
It wouldn't even matter like how big it was. As she said. And
it's
then also, I wanted to get to the vaccine lottery thing because that's so fucking dystopian, and we can't go without talking about that and the madness thing. Well, first I want to do the madness thing because it'll be easier because that's a psyop, 100%. And we're not even talking about it anymore, like on like national scale in the news. It seems is a thing that will control remotely your brain and behavior of humans. So that's fun. So we do have the ability to put magnetism in people. So that's interesting to think about, but it's also not exactly what we're dealing with lipid nanoparticles and whatever else they got in the same thing. So there are like all kinds of videos, but videos I don't really take very seriously, especially when I'm TikTok. Sorry, I don't know TikTok much. You know, as a rule, or YouTube for that matter when it comes to videos. Like anyone can do whatever they can do to make something happen. It's 2021, we have all kinds of tricks that we can do. Editing things. Like I was able to attach a magnet to myself, to my arm with water, like just watering the arm and then put it on there and then stay on there all the time. That was just my experiment. I'm not saying it's happening to everyone, that they're all using water. I'm just saying that's the way to do it. And that's why I can't endorse the magnetic like vaccine initiative that they have going on with a microchip thing attached to it.
Understanding science, that doesn't walk, because if it's something which is going in and it's going to the bloodstream, it can move.
That doesn't make sense.
The only way that they could do that is if it's like a separate, like, okay, I just put this one magnet thing right under the skin, but not into the vein. Which that doesn't make any sense, because from how I understand it, it's injected into your veins directly. So how will it get from your veins up to your upper bicep? Doesn't make much sense. I could understand that maybe you could say some kind of heavy metal.
That has happened.
That could be just throughout your, and that could be within your bloodstream overall. So you can probably put that back anywhere. It's not that, okay, this is the micro.
And that's when I knew that there was a psyop coming out, and I knew that the media was going to get a hold of this shit.
Well,
like
the thing is,
mainstream
if
media.
they could take it, and make the people look silly in any kind of way, or start to discredit that, and a lot of people put that date, and we're going around saying, "Oh, put a magnet on your arm." And so what happens is when they talk to their buddies who are vaccinated, then you look like an idiot, especially if you put the magnet there and it doesn't do it.
Yes, and there was an article from BBC, the British bullshit channel, which also loves pedophiles. Jimmy Savile from that one, who was also with the people in the royal family. It just so happens that they all hang out together. And they had this chick come on, and she had to like retract her statement from TikTok or whatever. And she was like, "I was wrong. I licked the magnet and I put it on my." I'm like, "Ew!" First, like ew. Like if you're gonna say you didn't do it, say something smart. Like I put water on my arm like a normal person, not like you licked the magnet. That's disgusting.
Or mentally compromised.
Or she was like told to say something, and she like came up with that brilliant one.
I probably told her that she probably wants people who have a large following. They're like, "Hey, you're supposed to be gone." Oh yeah. Well, then they threatened.
Yeah, they did whatever they did, and then she like came in and she was like, I'm sorry, it was not me, I didn't do anything, blah, blah, blah. So there's that, and then the vaccine lottery, because we're getting so many shots in arms, we need to pay people to get shots.
Yes.
That makes sense.
And give away free tickets to stuff.
And free fries. Who doesn't want fries?
What that's telling me is that's
not about health.
What it's telling me is bullshit. You're not getting people vaccinated. And what it is a much higher percentage of people don't trust this vaccination than they're letting on. They're making it seem, oh yeah, everybody's getting it. Yeah, don't get me wrong, there are a bunch of people getting it, but they're making it as if like, no, it's that very, very, very small percent, like 10% of people who are not going to get it or whatever.
Yeah, and vaccine has.
And the people who haven't got it yet, it's because they just have to.
Or, they're waiting for everybody else to get it, and then they'll get right in line.
It's not that they're not going to take it at all. They just haven't yet.
At first, it was false scarcity, because they're like, okay, you can only get this jab here or shot here. You got to go here to this thing. I'm sorry, we don't have them everywhere. We're trying to get it like Trudeau and fucking Canada was like, I'm sorry, we can't give them all the vaccinations. And then everybody's like, oh, we have a lockdown again? Well, fuck those fucking vaccine people. Like, they should have given us vaccines. I hate Trudeau because he didn't give me vaccines. Girl, no. You're not understanding the situation. And then the variants probably come from the vaccine, but we're not allowed to talk about that. They might come from them.
Well, what I'll say is, on the variant thing, you guys say what's going on, and then give it 3 months.
Mm-hmm.
Because what I find, what's going on to me, everything you say or come out and start saying, automatically get, nope, can't trust anything they're saying. Everything they're saying is false, conspiracy, false. Snopes is coming after you. Censor, and then they start to kind of
well, you know what? Walk it back. You know,
it
might have a
walk
point
back.
there. You know, I guess Trump wasn't totally wrong about it.
But at the same time, that doesn't take us off the operation. That doesn't take away all the, that doesn't take away you discrediting us on a mass platform. That doesn't erase all that, because you're not going to come back and like, you know what, this account, and we yanked down. They were not lying. They were sharing legitimate information. Yeah. We just didn't like the slant. I mean, I've heard reporters come out and say, well, I mean, I just naturally just trust the policy, admitting that they just had a natural bias to trusting. Not that it's information that was correct. It's just like, oh, the people that I trust them, so I'm going to trust them. And we've got to stop doing that.
Yes. And also, Fauci has lied before. He has been compromised before in what he has said and done in the 80s and 90s. So he is not new to this game. This is what he does. Well, Kerry said himself, Kerry Mullis, the inventor of the PCR test and Nobel Prize winner in science. He is a molecular biologist, whatever. And he supposedly, I don't know how, but he got pneumonia and died in August 2019. Don't know how that happened, right before Event 201, 2 months later, and then the outbreak happened after that. So he wasn't able to say anything to have Fauci this go round, but he had said a lot in the past, and there's interviews that have been suppressed by the mainstream media that you can find on BitChute or Odyssey or wherever, and you can get that information for yourself from the actual source. Who was involved in the AIDS epidemic, which he claimed was not connected to HIV and became a crackpot after that.
Well, this is what's interesting to me. Most of these people, they're able to say, you know what, Dear Tennant, for instance, she's been a horrible actress the whole time, her whole political life, but she keeps going up. Michelle Wallace, horrible part of the Bush administration, but now she's whitewashed. Keeps going up. And what we see is this trend of no matter how shitty you are, or Nicole Wallace.
Sorry, I have to fact check. I'm sorry.
Well, no, I probably need to have you around more often because I know what I mean to say, but it comes out differently than people will take that to heart. Oh, he said and everybody else, 99% of the people will know what I mean, but you get that one asshole who wants to twist words. So thank you for correcting that. But,
I just know a lot of her.
But these people, they just fail up. And it's and what you start to realize across the board, whether it's politics, whether it's the medical industry, whether it's this, once you get to a certain level, you can only fail up. The only way to fail down is actually you don't fail down because when you're telling the truth, you get thrown down. When you fail, you get promoted. So do that now.
And specifically about the lottery situation, they were even mentioning doing it in North Carolina, where my mother lived with her family, and she was even joking, oh, maybe I'll go ahead and enter it and then get my next shot, or use my vaccination status that I already have. But I was like, Mother, don't say that. She was like, it's a joke. And I'm like, I don't care. Please stop saying it.
I mean, I try to tell everybody, make your own decisions. I'm just saying that I've always been more cautious in general. And so I advise caution in these times. I know it can be easy to just trust whatever anybody says. But be careful.
Also, this is in New York. Okay, they have the Excelsior Pass, which is the vaccine passport they use in New York. And then now they have the vaccine lottery with Cuomo. And this dude was already Me Too, and nothing people in nursing homes. Nothing happened before that. Like, how much does it take to
And
get
he's even
out?
highlighted right now with the nursing home thing in the
It's a cover up. It's like a literal cover up.
Mhm.
Like they covered the numbers, they changed them. It's absolutely ridiculous. And you know, and now this dude's talking to people every day, like he's a dictator and shit, and offering them fries. Well, the other guy's offering them fries, but he's offering them money. So you know, he just makes me so sick because he's just part of that family of gangsters that people like. I don't know why you would trust this motherfucker.
Or what we call him on the show, we call him the Freedom Brother.
I mean, come on. And his brother was so suspicious. His little pose scared.
Oh yeah, the coming out of the basement shit. Well, and then you see him get into an altercation with somebody like a little bit after that.
Yeah, breakup.
Yeah, couldn't call him that a racial slur. Get the fuck out of here, dude. You, and here's another thing. If you are a multimillionaire, I don't want to hear any of your pity tears. Fuck you. Sorry. I don't want to hear you whining and crying because you're already a millionaire. All you got to deal with is a couple of little words that hurt your feelings. Get over it.
And then you have $5 million in New York, and now this motherfucker who we can't get rid of here, Gavin Newsom, who's supposed to be recalled. We worked really hard on that shit. Now he's offering up to like 115.6 million in his little lot.
Mm-hmm.
And I was like, I was looking at Ohio and judging that guy, and thinking he was stupid as fuck. And now it's coming here. And it's like, are we going to escape any of this shit? Is it just going to go everywhere now? I feel like it will. 116.5 million.
Well, I mean, how I believe it's going to happen is we're going to literally be sitting in a form of minority report without the type. Except the only thing is it's going to be the computer filming. I mean, they've already talked about.
This is all leading to transhumanism. Like, that's the whole point.
I mean, all of this is
the biometric data is going to be, you know, mixed with digital cards and stuff. Like they're going to have all of our information. It's not just about that.
Well, then that's what we have to do. Next time I come on, we have to talk about transhumanism and Elon Musk.
Yeah. Oh,
because now that's what I'm saying. That's a whole nother like.
I wanted to mention it before, but like we don't have time.
That's another good hour to 2 hours
worth
of conversation.
Inflation. We got to talk about Joe Biden, like telling this girl that she looks 19, and when she crossed her legs, like what the fuck is wrong with our president? Like, and then you see these fucking people saying "creepy Donald" in a response to "creepy Joe." You know who's president? Not Donald Trump right now. So maybe we can talk about him later. Maybe we can talk about the guy who's being creepy around children right now and not deflect with another creepy dude. How about no more creepy dudes? How about that?
Exactly. How I mean, I don't get this. How you just say, you know what, I'm not going to deal with what you said. I'm going to ignore that and just find the issue over there.
And put it in a meeting.
I mean, but I realize that's what Americans do. This is the American way. I mean, China goes over there and starts telling, or U.S. goes to China and starts telling them about their leaders' Muslim problem. And they turn around and say, look what you guys are doing with the minorities in your country. Look at what you guys got going on at the border. Don't dare talk to us. And then if you look at, I'm going to do a video on it on this channel, because I am live right now. On this channel, I'm going to do a video coming up showing India, and one of the reports from India goes in on the United States. I mean, and so like I was having this conversation with someone not so long ago, and I'm like, well, outside of California, outside of Texas, outside of New York and Florida, outside of those 4 places, most minorities across the board don't have the representation they do in those cities. And that's when you see all the horrible discrimination and stuff you hear about. I mean, I was talking to a gentleman, he happened to go out in Mexico. He's talking about, I just don't see what you're talking about. I'm like, because you fucking grew up here in California. I live in Kansas City. When we play games out, like basketball games out at state capital, we literally had a full group of white parents who were yelling curse words and racial slurs at and throwing rocks at their buses. I'm 40, so it wasn't that long ago. What we're talking about, 20 something years ago. It's not that long ago. I've been called the N word more times than I can remember, and it hasn't been that long ago. So when, like for instance, when I worked at Lowe's, one of the major contractors who comes in does millions and millions of dollars with our store, like a month. He was like, dude, if only you knew how racist. Racist your bosses and supervisors are. So when somebody starts telling me, oh, everything's fine, what's not going on? When I have military in college and all that, and I'm getting paid less than a kid with a high school diploma only, like $5, $6 an hour or less, and I'm filling in as the supervisor, that shows you racism ain't going nowhere. All it's done is close. That's all it's done. Now, oh, sorry, sir, I mean, you were just a couple of points off. If your credit score is just a little bit better, we would have gave you a loan. Maybe come back in 6 months. Maybe you can open up this little plan and then pay on that, and then your credit will go up. But I'll sit there and literally talk to a white person who has a high school diploma. I mean, been out of work for 3 years and walk right in and get $10,000, $15,000. And it's like, I'm not blaming that on every single person, but you can't try to pretend things are not, that they don't exist. And yeah, it's a system. And even if I'm able to beat the system and get around it, or other people are, what about that community as a whole? I can't just say, well, I got mine, I'm good now. Well, fuck my community. No community does that, but minority community. And the reason why is because of the Stockholm syndrome and just the oppression and the PTSD that's been put on those communities that is allowed them. Hey, I just got to be happy that I'm open. That's the mentality. It's not like, well, I know all these people around me, they're struggling, and I know that they're going through all the shit which I was going, but I can't focus on that. That's what you have going on in the community. That's the reason why you see community staying completely at the bottom. And this system keeps the foot on our neck.
It does. It very much does. And I wanted to get to Palestine because that was such a big issue before this week.
Yeah.
Somehow it became not such a big issue in the media after $735 billion were
here's what I can do. I can we can tomorrow I can set up a live and let you take over my show and you can drill me on these questions. Because there's so much I can say, and I can't go into it too much because I'm trying to make sure to keep my middle know that you do got a show too that you got to run tonight, so don't make sure you're too late for. But I trust my co-host. I've already told them, hey, you guys know, make sure you're on top of it. Good to go. So,
yeah, I want to wrap everything up now because it's been 2 hours. We weren't even supposed to go that long, but it just got crazy.
Yeah, it got crazy, and everybody knows that I'll go with the topic. I got an opinion on damn near everything. So
I had a lot on my list, though. It's like 17.
Then
8
tomorrow, actually, or maybe we should. When will you post this?
Probably tomorrow.
Okay, then what I'll do is tomorrow evening we can do it later, so then we'll go live for part 2. Tomorrow evening.
Sounds good.
I'll give you a call.
Okay, perfect. Because there's just so much news this month. It's insane. Like,
yeah, I mean,
dystopian city. Like,
that's crazy. The reason why on this channel, my What I've Been Thinking channel, I haven't even really put too many videos. A lot of times, like I had to flip and all that. It's been way too fast, and then I have a lot of work which I've been doing on my Hebrew apologetics. I'm trying to build up a case before I start making certain declarations.
For sure.
And so
that's what I've been doing like all last week. That's what I do during the month. People don't understand. I put a lot of like shit out there on Twitter and I use it on the show. But like that's sort of for me to like go back to it and like reference it. Sometimes I'm just tweeting shit for myself. Well, and that's why it doesn't get any likes.
and I actually do that too occasionally. I learned that from Progressive Soapbox. He does it all the time. He's like, yeah, I retweet stuff, and it doesn't mean nothing when I'm.
I don't retweet it all. I quote tweet all the time. line now, so people know that my opinion is what I'm putting out there and not the original.
It depends.
Some of the shit, like, I don't
lazy.
agree with enough. I told myself, like, at the end of last year, I was like, no more retweets. I deleted all my retweets. And then I started over with quote tweeting stuff, just so I could fact check everything that I put my eyes on, because I don't trust anything anymore.
Well, I do read through the stuff I read.
Well, I just wanted to make sure that people know how I feel about the thing that I'm tweeting. Because some of these motherfuckers will say one thing at the beginning of the article,
And then
they say some shit at the
like,
beginning,
whoa,
at the middle,
yeah.
and I'm like, no, we didn't need to bring that up. Why are you bringing that up? Because there has to be a narrative.
Yes.
It can't be just the news. Like some websites, you can just get the news, like scientific websites, medicinal like pages and stuff. But you can't get that for like regular news, because they always have to have something about Trump or Joe or whoever the fuck they want to put in there.
Well, speaking of that, like, I guess the last thing I'll say on that is, like, I love how their ratings like down. I mean, I think I heard CNN is struggling. They have not been able to crack 1 million views in their top demographic.
Good.
And I
Completely
love
not.
it. It shows that the generation a little bit younger than me, their wives and
We shouldn't anymore, because like we have history in our guys, and that's what is so important, to really know your history. Like, so many people just need to like look into the past, because it repeats. It really does repeat. It is repeating now, so we need to be aware.
Please check out my channels. I do
Please
a lot of historical stuff.
He does have some really good information.
Go dig back to like some of the stuff. Like, I'll watch a show I did like a year ago. Huh, damn. I didn't. Whoa, wait a minute. That tie right there is tied to this.
Yes,
and I didn't
find that
know
too.
that. I was like, wait a minute. I was already kind of leaking some information.
I found that in my YouTube comments. I was like, wait a minute. When I was deleting stuff, I was like, wait a minute. I'm not deleting that one, because that was a really good point. Oh, that's connected to this. And that's connected to this. It's all connected.
Like one of my favorite ones is, it's like one of my lowest view episodes. I did a lot. I put so much work into it. I was going through the president, and what was it? Because Joe Biden was like, Trump is the first racist president we've ever had.
No,
so
fuck you.
I literally went through every single president and showed how they were racist and what they were racist on. Because some were just racist on blacks, some were racist on the natives, some were racist on the Irish population. And so I put if they're racist on the Asian population, I put all those things in there to show. Well, we have maybe like 4 presidents that you can say maybe weren't racist. Maybe. And I'm
that
like,
doesn't include Bill Clinton.
It does not.
Does not. Not at all.
Well, I even started like put like a category like racist, non-racist, maybe. And so
the ones you don't hear about the most are probably.
And then I put like some people got like a double nod, like you're racist and you were slave owner. So, I had that in there, those layers.
A lot of those, yeah.
Oh, I mean.
Or you're secretly racist because you care about slaves, but only for political reasons.
Or it would be like certain ones, like for instance, Monroe. I don't think of him as racist, because he wasn't very racist towards any of the people up here. He was racist towards everybody in South America, though. The stuff which he was doing in South America with the whole Monroe guy.
Right.
I mean, it's bad. So, yes, sorry. I'm about to go into another topic.
Learn history.
Yes, learn history. And on my Hero Apologetics, I go ancient history. So we're talking about Sumeria. We're talking about ancient Babylon. We're talking about ancient Egypt. We're talking about ancient Greece, the Assyrians. And I also start bringing you in touch with how these societies intermingled, interacted, because a lot, what I realized is going into the Bible, a lot of people understand geography and war. And when you start understanding that, you get a much more vivid picture of what the Bible is trying to tell you. Something where it says, like, and this is the story. It's more impactful, the destruction, than it's letting on in a couple of little sentences. Try to bring out some of that, make it pop alive.
We'll talk about that with the transhumanist discussion about ancient civilizations, because I really like to get into that topic. My mother was like letting me go on and on about it, and it just felt so good to like have something to agree with her on for once,
Mhm.
you know, not have like any kind of disagreement, like especially with Palestine, because she's definitely.
Oh yeah. Tomorrow we gotta talk about that.
Yeah, I mean, we gotta talk about all of that shit and how it relates to each other,
And I'm
how we
trying
relate
to,
to each other.
I'm trying to get Nico Pellet. I'm not sure if you're familiar with him. To your audience, he wrote a very famous book out of Israel called The General Stuff. And if you're not familiar with it, it goes into basically like his father was kind of like Israel's first Muslim father.
Oh, okay.
So he's like one of the early signers of their declaration. And so I'm working on that. I'm holding to that. I'll get in there, but I'm working on it.
Well, I'll link to the channels below, and thank you guys so much for listening. We really appreciate it. Have a great weekend, rest of the weekend, and the week after that, and then a good June. Hopefully, it'll get a little less weird then. We're probably gonna get more weird. I don't know.
I see you out there, Ed. Shout out to DJ Elle, to DJ L7.
Thank you so much for listening, and have a great day.
Have a good one.